Well, in Emmett Township, they'd like some better roads on which to drive your Camaros and other things, but looks like we'll have to get inventive about how to do that. Tim Hill's back once again, the supervisor in Emmett Township, to talk about that. Hi, Tim.
Hey, good morning.
Thanks for the time yet again today. This was a bit of a gamble, but you put it out there and see what happens. A road tax that just didn't fly.
Well, the people spoke. That's all I can say. The community came together. We only had like an 18% turnout, however.
Yeah.
But it wasn't all the papers. As far as I know, everybody or the majority of the people knew that this was going to happen. So the vote was there. We did, we put it out there, and they said no. So they're saying, I think they told me to go back to the budget and see if we can cut some money out. And that's what I'm going to do.
Yeah, that's interesting. 18% turnout. We're led to believe by all of the statewide politicians that all they hear about is roads, 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 fix the roads. Yes. But when it came to Emmett Township, the voters weren't motivated in large numbers to vote on it.
Well, I think we had several subdivisions where the residents got together and they decided to pay to have the road paved.
I see.
And, I tell you, I really appreciate, them doing that. And they came out in droves and voted as well. So I think they made their voice heard.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
So some folks would rather pony up and assess themselves a road charge than do the tax.
Right. And that's how it worked. Prior to doing this millage, you can do a millage or an assessment, because Bedford did the assessment. You could, get together with people in your community and have a petition drawn up and circulate it. And if more than 51% agree, then you can get your road done. It's really an agreement between you and the county road department. Emmett Township doesn't have anything to do with it, except we help facilitate the petition. But other than that, it's just between you and the road department itself.
Yeah, so we'll talk in a minute about what could possibly happen now to try and make this work. But if some residents have decided to pay to have roads paved, that takes some of that off of your immediate shoulders, I suppose is the word, but it doesn't solve the whole problem.
No, it doesn't. And going back again to the budget and, using a fine-tooth comb, which I'm going to do. I mean, I am a financial advisor, and so I think with that, we can scrape up as many pennies, and that's what the people asked, and that's fine. Like I said, we just wanted to throw it out there and see what they said, and they said, nope, Tim, go back and redo your checkbook and see what you can come up with. So that's what we're going to do.
All right, we'll talk more about that in just a minute on WBCK. Tim Hill's here, Emmett Township Supervisor. So, yeah, the road proposal as it was presented amounted to how much?
The total amount was $16 million. We have 76 miles of road compared to what some people are saying, but that's what the engineers say. And our portion will be about 11.2.
Right.
And that's if you do it all within a 2-year period, because they're trying to take advantage of low oil and low asphalt costs.
Boy, yeah, those petroleum components, that price can fluctuate.
Oh, without a doubt.
And the Road Commission had a hand in this too, right?
They're the ones they came up with the figures, and they have a ton of engineers there. So, they're the ones that they also evaluate the roads with a rating system from 0 to 10. And the majority of our roads are 2, unfortunately.
Wow.
Yeah.
All right, so that's not going to happen. So now as you said, your directive is to go back and find the money in the budget.
Yeah.
Boy, how do you do that?
Well, I'm going to look at restructuring personnel possibly. We're also going to look at we get about $450,000 to $500,000 from the casino, and that was prior to me being elected. That was when we started getting at that time. They put debt services on that, which we may have to look at restructuring. If we can probably scrape up, that money from the casino, I'm hoping that we can use that towards the roads. I mean, there's several roads: G Drive, D Drive, E Drive are major roads. A lot of subdivisional roads that need help too, and plus the roads within Woodland Beach and Singletree and the others that had gotten together. In another 5 or 6 years, they're going to have to be coated, so to fill those cracks. So when winter gets, it won't
make it worse.
Yeah.
We were talking last week with one of the Kalamazoo City Commissioners, and they were talking about this whole $70 million fund that they apparently are going to have access to, which
Must be nice.
Yeah, right. that is going to help them with some of these things. And one of the things that Commissioner Henderson said that they've stopped doing in Kalamazoo is neighborhood road repairs. Really? They've really pushed that back on their list as they look at ways to cut. And, one of the things that he pointed out that's got them into this situation is the issue of revenue sharing or lack thereof and the scaling back of that.
With the state?
With the state. So as municipalities try to figure out how to make up for that, these are the things that are happening. So my presumption is then as you look at this problem, you're not alone in this.
No, it's really interesting. People don't understand that Emmett only keeps a small portion of the taxes that are collected. Just the administrative side is 0.843 mils. And then you look at our police side, it's about 4 mils, a little bit more than that. But all the money that we collect, because we are the vessel that collects taxes for the county and the state, all the money that we collect goes to the state, and then we get some of it back through revenue sharing, and that keeps shrinking every year. Big surprise.
Right.
So we have to look at ideas on how to share services with other municipalities like Penfield or Bedford or Newton Township. And with Emmett, we have a good police force. We've got a lot of services that we can share, engineering, so we just need to look at ways, and I hate the pun, but outside of the box.
Yep.
To do what the public's asking us. And quite frankly, the vote, it is what it is. And I'm very, now we know. So now it's time to go to plan B, and that's to slice as much as we can from the budget and look at other avenues, casino, or look at, other ways to partner and get these roads done. And I love challenges. I really do. So.
Well, here's one. Huh?
Here's one, yeah.
When you were here last time, it was on the eve, I think, of the or within a couple of days of the public information session that you were offering on this.
Right.
When you went to that, was there a room full of people telling you we don't want this? I mean, what was the tone at that point? I
think the tone. Well, there was a few that were a little rowdy. We had one that was yelling socialism, and I thought that was funny because I told the guy, I said, "Listen, if it's socialism, then we would have gone through with this instead of voting on it." We're a republic. But no, I think the general consensus is that everybody just wanted to find out what the information was. Okay. And they got it from the road department. The engineers up there, I'm not an engineer, obviously. My degree's in the finance of public administration. But the thing is that it was just informational. And we had a pretty good turnout. I wish we could have had more, quite honestly. But there was apparently an issue with the company that we contracted with to get the information out. But it is what it is. We're here, and now we're looking at a different avenue and more challenges.
So the session, the tone of the session wasn't overall indicative of the vote that was coming. So
I think that I was surprised, quite honestly.
Okay.
I mean, we get calls daily on fixing the roads, and it's unfortunate because we have nothing to do with the maintenance and stuff. So we always send them to the road department. The overall consensus was, okay, yeah, I don't like it, but I'll vote for it. But when it came down to brass tacks, it didn't pass, and I was confused. If people really wanted the roads fixed, they would have been there, and they would have pulled that lever and said, okay, let's do it. But I think I think people are just tired of taxes. Another thing is that when we voted with the state to not have it pass, and then they turned around and passed it anyway, I think that may have overshadowed this vote here, because I think the public was weary of government, and I don't blame them. I do not blame them.
Tim Hill is here, the supervisor in Emmett Township. We're back in just a minute to talk a little bit more about roads. Talking about roads with Tim Hill, supervisor in Emmett Township, where voters said no to a tax to fix roads there, which is a little contrary to what you might imagine. Not entirely, but maybe a little contrary in that we keep hearing roads is a priority, fixing them for voters. But in this case, it wasn't. So do you interpret this then as the voters saying to you, not only go back and find the money in the budget, but if you have to lay somebody off or reduce personnel at the city level somehow, do that because we don't want to tax. Do you see it that way?
I think that, really at this point, nothing's off the table. I don't want to lay anybody off, but I can't say that, I really don't know. The board has to make a decision. All I can do is present it. I'm one of 7.
Yep.
When they leave, I do run the township. However, again, it's the board tells me, Tim, you got to do this or that. And but I think it was the public spoke. The public said, "Hey, we're tired of paying taxes." God bless them. They are. So if I can scrape enough money out of there to do one road a year, then I'll do it. Quite frankly, these roads are costing us tires, they're costing us ball joints, they're costing us alignments, and those things aren't cheap, and they're unsafe. They're absolutely unsafe for motorcycles. All those Harley riders out there and stuff. The police cars, they're getting damaged too. So they have to be fixed. Period. However, what do you do? Maybe go to the casino and roll a few dice.
Probably don't want you to do that, I'm guessing, but appreciate the notion that at this point you say, what are the options left out there? Yeah. Well, is there discussion among townships that you border, you referred to them, where you amp up the discussions about how to work together on these things? Have there been phone calls back and forth?
Well, right now, yes. We've been working not just on the roads, but there's joining roads between us and Penfield and others that the road department has to hold off on because they don't know what to do because they can't just pave and then stop in the middle of a road. However, we have been working with the other municipalities on several issues: sewer, water, metro departments. The 911 dispatch. Things like that. And I know the Lansing has been asking us to try and look at ways to share services and cut costs, and that's something that we're going to try and do. The people in Emmett especially are hardworking people, and they have to save their dollars like everybody else. They got to pay their bills just like we do. So my job is to not intrude on their personal lives, and with this here, again, they spoke very loud. Hey, we don't want any more taxes, so go fix it. It's all right.
Are there obvious ways, and you talked about the Lansing directive, which came down, I think pretty close to the beginning of the Snyder administration, try and work together and figure out amongst yourselves how you might cut some of these costs?
A prime example is fire departments. If you have, let's say, Battle Creek has a fire department, and you've got a certain area that fire that truck can reach within a certain period of time. If some of it's bordering Emmett, or if we're bordering some of them, then why can't we do lateral moves where we can cover this area for Battle Creek or this area for Penfield? Then they can focus their efforts on other areas too. You don't have to lay anybody off. You just move things around and try and cut costs that way too. And then we're all in this game together. We're in the Battle Creek community of 90,000 people. How do you bring in jobs? How do you cut costs? How do you be more efficient? And that's what my job is to make everything more efficient. And again, was it 2 Tuesdays ago? A couple Tuesdays ago, I don't know.
It'll be a week
They
tomorrow.
spoke very loud, and we're going to do that.
Yeah, so there are some ways already that this has been discussed. I don't know what the other ideas are. Do you all buy your paper clips from a centralized location? How simplified does this get? But, you have to examine this whole thing.
Right, yeah.
So how quickly do you suppose you need to have some kind of partial plan at least in place to try and go forward here?
I would like to have a plan ready so when we move into next year in the spring and it's ready to, I want to have it ready by next year. Just like we had planned. If we can cut enough from the budget where we can bond, then I will do that, if the board will let me. Because we have to take advantage of those low costs on the oil and gas.
Yeah, we presume if that goes up, that just makes this climb even harder.
Right. And the best thing is we know where to go now. We know what we have to do, and we can do it. So I can't guarantee I can get all the roads done in 2 years, but maybe 4 or 5 years, But it took a long time to get here, so it'll take a little bit of time to get out, and we will.
All right, we'll leave it there. Tim Hill, Supervisor, Emmett Township. Thanks for the update.
Thanks, sir.